All right, everybody, very excited to bring in a guy who has been all around the coaching landscape. He's been the head coach at the highest level, went undefeated at Auburn in 2004, very well respected in the coaching community, and has now changed course, is a senator, is doing a fantastic job so far, and we're really excited to get Coach Tuberville on, Senator Tuberville on. Coach, I really appreciate you taking some time.
Yeah, great to be here.
Definitely. Well, I want to start. Look, there's a lot of important stuff going on. We know all about inflation, all this other stuff. We know about NIL and boys playing in girls sports, but we got to get something really serious. In 2004, for 2004, are we going to get a bill in Congress to declare Auburn national champions or what?
I need to start working on that.
Look,
I didn't get a lot of help. I didn't get a lot of help out of anybody when USC got kicked out of it, but that I might be able to pull that off now.
Hey, well, listen, I'll walk up to the hopper with you, my friend. We'll do it. We'll do it together. I'll carry that torch. But in all seriousness, we look at the way that college football has changed, and sports are changing, the landscape in general. But really, college football has been overhauled, and college sports overall has been overhauled with NIL. And now we look at the transfer portal. And I know you guys are doing a ton of work on NIL up there and trying to find a way, legislatively, whether it's against, finding ways to make collectives better in every branch of NIL to try and put some guardrails on this thing. Because, Coach, they just kind of let it out of the bag and let it eat, and now it feels like it's hard to put it back in the box. How realistic do you think is there a chance we may see some sort of legislation to really put some guardrails on NIL as a whole?
Well, I'll put it this way. If we can't do something about it to make it better, we're going to lose college sports as we know it. It's out of control. It's a forest fire that nobody knows how to put it out. And so I stayed out of it for about a year. And, of course, I still have all my coaching buddies. I know former players. I know people in NCAA. And after about a year, I started getting calls. We need help. And I said, well, you get the federal government in this thing now. This is not a rule. It'll be a law. And it's going to be hard to get done. But Joe Manchin and I sat down, we talked about it, and so we've got both of our staffs working on it. We've talked to collectives, we've sent out letters to athletic directors, coaches, anybody that we could kind of get information from. The problem is, and it always has been, me being a coach for 40 years, NCAA washed their hands of anything that had a possibility of a lawsuit. And it's basically the NCAA dropped the ball on this. They just passed this legislation. They said, we don't want any more lawsuits. Y'all have at it. And that's what they've done. So there's not a whole lot we can do as the federal government, other than we can get some guidelines and we make all 50 states do the same thing. Now that's the problem that we're having as we speak. You got some states that will allow schools to offer money to high school players. Some states can't. There's all kind of legal ramifications that are different in each state. So what Joe Manchin and I want to do is come up with some guidelines to where if you're going to do this, it's got to be done by all 50 states, have the same regulations. Because if you don't, you're not going to have any true national champion. You're going to have just a few teams that are going to have edges over everybody else. And again, I hate that we have to get involved, but we're going to try to help. I don't know whether we can do it. Yeah. But we're going to try to help.
Well, yeah, we had Jim Jordan on, too, a couple months ago talking about this, and he talked about the antitrust lawsuits that would be coming back if you tried to do something and how big of a hurdle that was. But really hoping you guys can find a way. I know you have to thread the needle on this about as much as you have to thread the needle on anything, especially when you start getting the government involved. But I do want to shift gears here for a second, or as we say, call an audible or check the play. They're overloading one side. When you look, Coach Tuberville, at the integration of boys into girls sports, and this is something to me that really hits home. I had a sister growing up that was very involved in sports, and it seems to me like we don't understand the simple things of biologically, men are different than women, and when you start putting them in the same sport, it becomes really dangerous. Imagine if you had men fighting women in the UFC, and you can see that with what we've seen in swimming, obviously, with a very low-level men's swimmer looking like Michael Phelps when he got into the women's game. You're seeing volleyball players getting smashed in the face with serves that they shouldn't be seeing from men that are bigger than them. What is your goal, or kind of what is your thoughts behind putting a stop to letting males play with women's sports. This isn't chess. This isn't checkers. There are physical sports out there, and therefore there are physical consequences.
Well, it's asinine, to be honest with you. I can't believe we're even talking about this or having to talk about it. I've given speech after speech on the Senate floor. We've had other senators do it. You know, the left is out there. I don't know what they're trying to do to family in this country. You know, we've got 60-something genders now. Now, as you said, we've got boys. If they want to play in women's sports, let them do it. You know, this was the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And it's one thing that the federal government actually got right. In 1972, they came out and said, hey, whatever you do for men's sports, you got to do for women's sports. And at that time, we had 3 to 6% of the young girls playing high school sports. Now we're over 50%. It has been a huge, huge success getting young ladies involved. They learn leadership. They learn everything that the men were learning, and it gave them a chance to compete at the same level. Now you've got these whack jobs on the left that says, nah, you know, if you want to identify yourself as a woman, you should be able to play in sports against them, dress in the same dressing rooms, and be afforded the ability to compete at that level. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I'm with you.
And when we get to this point in this country, you know how bad our country is off. I mean, we're hurting in a lot of areas. You know, you just look at the crime and the inflation, the border, how bad our education has gotten. Now they want to ruin athletics. And I'm telling you, I have just about had it with these goofballs. And it makes no sense. And we're going to fight it tooth and nail. But what's going to happen is you got to already have a lot of young girls who are not participating in sports because of this. Their parents aren't allowing them to do it. But I just can't imagine. I can't imagine why in the world they want to attack women now, because for years you had all the feminists saying, hey, we want the same thing that men get. They got it. And now these same feminists are saying, we want to take that away. It makes no sense.
Yeah, the attack on common sense never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, Coach, it never sat right with me when I was playing college football that I couldn't profit off of my likeness a way that just a general student could. Not that I would have made a lot of money as a backup quarterback, but still, it was the concept of it. But I never felt exploited by the amateur nature of college football because I placed a high value level on a college education. There seems to be an important distinction to be made between name, image, and likeness and paying for play, right? Whether it's through a collective or whether it's directly to an individual collegiate student. So how does your legislation differentiate between name, image, and likeness and paying players to come to school?
Well, you know, we've got to find a way. And again, I'd have starved if I'd had to work on my name, image, and likeness when I was in college, as a lot of these young guys and women. Now, whatever you do, it's obviously the women get the same thing if afforded the ability. But what we're trying to do is try to find a way to get the universities involved through a lot of the TV money. Now here's the problem. Now you're getting ready to have the Big Ten and the SEC in a year or so when they have consolidation with their new teams that they're coming in. Their TV contracts are going to pay each team somewhere around $90 to $100 million a year. That's a lot of money. You know, when just a few years ago, most teams were only getting 30 to 35 million. There's got to be a way that some of this TV money should go to players, all players, not just a few. There's some college coaches that have told me what I do is we take some of the money, we give it to every athlete. And at the end of the day, if they want to go make more money off their name, image, and likeness, get you an agent and go do it. And I think that's probably the way to do it. As we're doing it now, we've got all these collectives at these universities are out collecting tens of millions of dollars. And they're the ones that's going to end up buying the players for either basketball or football, maybe baseball, maybe one or two other sports. But other than that, that's about it. For years, we tried to keep boosters out of it. Now boosters are allowed to get in it. And really, when I've talked to these collective groups, they've told me, Coach, get us out of this. We don't need to be doing this. And I totally agree. I think all the money still should go through the universities and go through the budgets. And if they want to keep money out, say if a car dealership says, no, I'm not going to give money, I'm just going to hire somebody to do some advertising for me. That's what they should do. But I tell you, this is getting way out of hand. You got kids making millions of dollars. I'm not going to bring up names of teams, but I do know a couple of teams right now in college football that their locker room is a mess. You've got some of the younger players that aren't playing that are making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, and you got older players that are playing in their position, starting and participating, not making a dime.
I really like that. No, I like that.
What do you think about that? That's unbelievable.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Essentially, you're saying we should have a TV revenue share for all of the players that come on a team. So a college could tell a kid, hey, this is what every single person in our signing class is getting. This is how much money you would get from our revenue share within the conference or within the TV rights deal. You're not saying, oh, well, we like this kid better from this high school, so we'll give you $150,000, but you are just going to have to come on just a scholarship. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah. And
that makes sense.
And it pretty much takes the money out of the recruiting. We need to get back into recruiting, make sure we leave education a big part of this, the scholarship a big part of it. But as I've seen the first year and a half, how this has gone, it's going to destroy it. It is absolutely going to destroy the team concept, the concept of coming and having an equal opportunity to play, participate, and make yourself better and earn something. I don't mind them making money off their jersey name or signing autographs. I think that's fine. But I think if you've got 600 athletes, say a major university's got 600 entire athletes in their program, men and women, I think everybody should get a check from that TV money that they're bringing in. I think that's at the end of the day, that's what was meant about name, image, and likeness, because all this TV money's coming in and the players aren't getting any of it.
There you go.
So let's give them $15,000, $20,000, give them $20, $30 million of it a year. You still got plenty of money. Then if they want to go out and make more money off their name, keep the school out of it.
Yes.
Make them get an agent and go do it themselves. But just this recruiting of saying, hey, we're going to give you $2 million to come to University X. To me, and again, I'll go back to my days. I mean, if half the kids from high school that you sign, you might sign some great players. If half of them can play, you're dang lucky. Yeah, most of them come in and they can't. All of you, if you played football, you understand when you come there, they don't realize the work, the time, the going to school, how tough it is to be a college athlete. And all of a sudden, you get your eyes open real quick. Hey, I'm making all this money, but I didn't sign up for all this stuff. Well, you still got to do it.
You're going to sink or swim, and it's funny you bring up TV money. Hell, Coach, I remember watching you guys play at 11 o'clock on Jefferson Pilot Sports with Dave. There's like 35 Daves, and now the SEC Network, hell, they could pay half the deficit we have to China right now with the money they're making.
No, I agree.
Exactly.
It's a full-time job being a student athlete, and people have to get ready for it. Well, Coach, you coached for 21 years. I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. It's the college football playoff. It started at 4. It's extending to 12. Do you have what's your thoughts on it? And is 12 too many?
Yeah, it's too many. But what are we doing this for? We just talked about it's about the money.
Yep.
TV controls everything going on right now. What I hate that we're getting into is we're going to take away from regular season. You're not going to be able to play 12 regular season games and then play that long a playoff. Yep. It's going to run into. We all remember this. When you get through the last game, you're just totally give out, exhausted. You're getting ready to go through finals. You have no practice. And then if you have a bowl game after, then you start your bowl practice after finals. Well, now there's no let up. I mean, you're going right through it. You're going to play right through finals. You're going to play 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5 extra games. I don't know how many it comes out to be, but it is a long season, and it's going to be the survival of the fittest. Because everybody talks about games, all of you know that you got to practice for those games. You got to have the contact for those games. And these people putting these things together, this college football committee, playoff committee, and all this, they're probably good people, but they have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're putting They're putting young men in harm's way in terms of injuries. And think about this now: if you're number 12 team and you make the playoffs, and you might be a first-round draft pick, you might say, I'm done. I'm not going to play in the playoffs. I mean, and then what do you have? I mean, you're going to have huge problems because that's going to happen, just like it's in the bowl games right now. I know in the top 4, most of those go ahead and play that one game or 2 games. But when you're playing 4 or 5 games and you're a top player in the country and you getting ready to really start your career, maybe in the NFL, a lot of them going to pull the plug. And I hate to say that, but I can see it coming.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I know you're really busy. Really appreciate what you guys are doing up there, fighting for sports and trying to make this thing more streamlined, common sense, and organized. That's the thing that I get out of it. It's just so disorganized right now. You got stuff going left and right. I know you guys, you and Joe Manchin and the group up there and guys that know sports are trying to get it handled. We really appreciate you taking some time, and we'd love to get you back on at some point.
Yeah, let's do this again in January. I'll have a better idea of what we can do and can't do when we get somewhere around January, and then maybe we'll get Joe Manchin on at the same time and talk about this. But if we can do something, I hope we can do it because I don't see anything good coming out of all this.
Yeah, and you can tell Senator Manchin we won't talk about West Virginia's struggle this year either. We'll just look at how the Big 12's really kind of glowed up a little bit this year.
Well, Neil Brown was my offensive coordinator at Texas Tech. He's a good coach, but he's having a few problems.
Yeah, I was rooting for him too. I know Neil, and he did a really good job at Troy. And you never know, all it takes is 1 year. Just JT stop throwing it to the other team. But Coach, Senator Tuberville, man of many talents, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.